One of the things I love about doing this podcast is that we talk to some awesome people, amazing, amazing leaders. And today is no different. We have the founder of StrutFit, Ang Nayyar. And can I just tell you something? The more and more our friendship grew over the last year and a half or so, the more I just became interested in making sure that you heard his story, heard more about who he is, about his company and what they do, but also you could take away some of the thoughts and ideas that he is going to share in this episode. I love doing interviews like this with leaders who have not just a focus on their business, but a focus on their humanity and also information that's going to be more valuable to you. So enjoy this episode with Ang Nayyar, founder of StrutFit, on Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy.
Welcome to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, where we go well beyond the corporate playbook to unpack major opportunities, hidden challenges, and critical issues that senior retail leaders face every day. So let's get started right now.
It's interesting because you and we first met on LinkedIn, and I think I saw your podcast episode with a gentleman, and I can't remember his name. I'm gonna probably insert his name here in post production, but maybe a clip of that because it was just it was a really great. Say, what was it?
Jerome, right?
Jerome. Yeah. It was such a great episode, and then I got hooked on a couple more of your episodes, and then we reached out, we connected, and then you said, "Hey, are you going to NRF?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." And it's interesting that we end up spending like three hours together over at NRF, just having a conversation and introducing people, to you, and we sat in with Ron Thurston and his panel. But I feel like I know you well. We've had several conversations before, but for those individuals who do not know you, can you just introduce yourself?
Cool. Oh man, how do you introduce yourself? So my name's Ang. I live in New Zealand. I was born in the Himalayas, which is a cool place to be born. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called StrutFit. And the vision for StrutFit, we started off with being like, cool, we want to bring retail into the future. But now very specifically what we're doing is bringing the in-store experience online. There's a lot of good stuff about the in-store experience. You can go in, you can talk to someone, you can try on products and understand if they'll fit you. You can talk to an expert and they can help you look through it. And we want to bring all those good qualities to online because 20% of shopping roughly occurs online. 80% still happens in store. But the more you can bring those two experiences together, the better. And we started off doing that in sizing, and now we're going to do that in some more cool ways, which we can discuss. What else? I'm a musician now. Martial artist, heaps of things.
Yeah, I think right before we went on, I said you're a Renaissance man because you were explaining to me the painting behind you and everything. I said this guy's a Renaissance guy. I mean, I thought I knew you, but then we start talking about the fact that you draw and you do all these other things as well. So it's pretty exciting. We're going to talk about the Himalayas. We're going to talk about the band. We're going to talk about, your silent retreat, all of those things, because they're all fascinating, not just for me, but I think they're going to be fascinating for the reader, for the listener as well. So when you talk about StrutFit, trying to bring in the online experience back into existence, right, into its prominence. What specific problem though were you trying to solve when you developed StrutFit?
Look, initially we weren't trying to solve a problem. Initially we had some cool technology, and I was trying to let you scan your foot, and we would make shoes, and you could like design a tailored shoe, so you could choose if you wanted Oxford or a Derby, what sort of broguing you wanted. These all words you're familiar with if you like formal shoes. And as we were validating this idea, talking to existing footwear companies, well, I was like, hey, can I make this stuff at scale? And they're like, oh, maybe, but we're actually really interested in your technology. Like, sizing's a problem for us. Can you solve this problem? And hit them initially, and I was like, I'm gonna try to make this stuff. I came up with a system to make tailored shoes at scale. But then we got a mentor who had a company called 42 Below, which was acquired by Bacardi. Then he was at a fashion brand and CFO of that. And he's like, look, you guys have customers without trying to sell them anything. Why don't you just focus on the software? And if you want to make shoes later, you can, but you're free software guys. Why don't you focus on the software? And so we started doing that, and specifically just solving sizing for footwear online. And we started actually with children first, because we're like, if you can scan children, you can scan anyone. Children are hard to work with. So we started that. And then over time, it started to grow as we developed relationships with retailers like Lacoste and Hoka. They're like, hey, footwear is great. We also sell apparel. Can you solve sizing for apparel? Or, hey, an X amount of people are willing to scan their feet, but some people aren't somewhere they can scan. They might be on the tube, on the subway, or they might be in the library or at work. And so can you come up with a solution for them because they can't scan their feet? And we're like, cool, yeah, we can do that. So we did that. And now what we're noticing is consumer behavior is about to have probably the most dramatic shift since e-commerce was invented. And you're noticing it in your private lives with how much, man, I was in the sauna and somebody was on ChatGPT in the sauna,
Yeah.
which is instantly, oh, the sauna's so hot, and they have the iPhone out, and then they took their photo from Instagram, put it into ChatGPT, and they're like, give me a caption for it. And then they went back to Instagram and read the caption, and then their phone was like, too warm, can't be used. But the amount people are relying on LLMs and just going to this very knowledgeable, air quotes, agent and just wanting to talk to it and be like, hey, I don't want to search the whole internet because there's so much information. There's so much noise. I just have a question. Can you just give me the best information? And so that's how people want to post. I don't want to go on to Doc Martens and look at 640 shoes. Or if you choose just boots, I don't want to have to look at 240 boots.
Yeah.
What I want to tell you is, hey, I'm going to Glastonbury. I bought this dress from All Saints. Here's a photo of the dress. Give me some options which go with this dress.
Mhm.
And then the conversational way I can recognize it's like, oh, okay. Actually, let me not use that example. No, I'll keep it. I've started it. I'll keep going. And they can look at it and like, look, it's a floral print. Here are some shoes which if we might look edgy with it. If you want to go for an edgy look, here you go. And also we can solve your sizing. You can scan your foot or you can answer some questions and boom, we found you the three. So you've gone from having to browse through 240 products.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I like? Click on it. Oh, it's not my size. Oh, it's just a frustrating, friction-full experience. To being like, oh, let me, this thing just wants to talk to me. I'll talk to it. Boom. Here's the context. Here's what I want. Here's what I have. Give me some options. Here's my size. Boom. I can add to cart. You're ready to go. All contained within, you're not having to jump around the whole website, and it creates this truly frictionless experience. So I think customers are going to want to, they're going to expect this because they're already doing it in their personal life. Like you're already doing it in your personal life. Like how much do you go on Google now versus ChatGPT?
Yeah. It's interesting now because I think about maybe even just maybe 7 years ago, right? 5-7 years ago, and then back further where you wanted to browse, right? Going online was actually the experience of browsing and, looking at a myriad of different things, stores, sizes, whatever it was. And now we've gotten to the point, I think now where there's so many options online and so many potential things that you can either purchase or buy or look at. To your point, it seems like the consumer is like, okay, you know what? It's too much noise. There's too much noise. I need a little bit more specificity, right? Inside of all of these options, pick for me the best option. I don't want to do all that work anymore. And then when you think about buying patterns, right? So if you're already on a specific website, they already have your buying patterns, your shopping history. So now you can actually tailor, your actual request based on everything that you've already purchased. So what you're saying is I won't say browsing is dead, but specificity is actually going to be the new thing. Is that would you agree with that?
I would say so, and I would make a less hard claim in the fashion space because people may still want to doubt, and we're not experts at StrutFit in fashion just yet. We are experts when it comes to functional and performance, and there you have an even more important use case where I had this. I'm going down to the slopes next week, and I wanted to snowboard, And usually I just go in, I just rent. And so they're like, cool, you're this tall, take this, here's your shoes. But this time I just wanted to buy it because I'm like, I think this is something I'll do regularly. And I went on to chat and I was like, hey, I'm this tall. This is my weight. I'm like, I've gone 5 times. I'm okay. I don't know how to do tricks. I just want a board. What sort of board would you recommend? And this is the kind of experience people want. Like if you go onto Rosignol, if you go onto Nidecker, currently you have to, unless you're an expert in that field and you know exactly what you're looking for, what you want is you want to talk to a knowledged store assistant, which you would do in the store, but you can't do that. So online, you have to like click through everything and be like, oh, what's the right product for me? If you're going running, what we're able to do now is in a store, you can sort of, if some of the stores you can run on a treadmill, they can assess your biomechanics and you can be like, hey, you know, I'm going for a hike in the Rockies. Is that a thing in the US?
Rockies? Yep. Yep.
Us making sure. And you're like, oh, I want to go for a hike in the Rockies. In fact, it's this specific hike. I'm going for 2 days. And I'm going from a week from now. Like a 10-star experience, and we won't have this from the start, but a 10-star experience would be like, oh, you're going next week. Here's what the weather's going to be.
Yeah.
Here are the conditions. I know which trail you're on. I know the distance. You said this is one of your first hikes. We know your biomechanics. Boom. Here's the best shoe for you, and here's 2 other options. And like, what a nice way to shop versus here's 120 shoes. Choose. Good luck.
Yeah. I did that actually with my trip to London. I said I'm going to be in London for 8 days this time of year, you know, and it said, okay, the weather's going to be X, Y, and Z, Steve, and you should bring this, and this, and this. And it was like, oh, so, and then all I did was like look at my phone and I picked and went into my closet and I ended up picking out what it said to bring. It was pretty much spot on. Right. And so it's interesting now where you know, it's almost become a personal shopper, even with things that we currently have inside of ourselves. I want to ask you a question though, because initially you said you guys started out as, you know, you wanted to design shoes, right? And then you utilize the technology. How hard was it for you to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to put this design thing on the, you know, onto the side and actually pivot into this tech side of business?
It wasn't hard because
okay.
I mean, it took me 3 months to come around to it. But I wasn't super passionate about making shoes or design to begin with. My background, I was a software engineer, and my co-founders were software engineers. And really, our background as far as business goes is there's an entrepreneurship program at the University of Auckland, student led, and I was a CEO of that and ran a team of sort of 30 people and went through that. And we were just coming up with ideas. And really all I wanted to do was build a company with my friend. And honestly, didn't expect to get this far. Where it's like, oh, let's work a year. And then you sort of pivot and you're like, oh, this might be something. And then like, oh, let's talk to investors. And you do a good job pitching. And you're like, okay, well, now we've got money and we can actually do this thing. And so you start, again, not expecting to go anywhere. And then all of a sudden you're working with the biggest brands in the world. And you have employees, you have mortgages and kids, and it's all become very real. So at the start, it was just like, hey, I just want to build something of value for the world with my friend. And so I wasn't hell bent on making shoes in particular. So it was okay.
Yeah. You know, that's an interesting point, right? Because when I think about the question that I just asked, right? Like what, you know, the first question, like what problem were you going to solve, right? It's very, very like robotic, right? Sort of question I always ask it anyway. But I think now, as I was speaking with you and I'm speaking with other people who have started different businesses, yes, they probably get to a problem that they want to solve. But I think more often than not, they realize that this is something I want to do, not just for myself, but I want to really help society out. I really want to do something that's a little bit different. That's not so much avant-garde, but I don't really have a specific problem that I'm just trying to solve. I just want to build something, right? Do you see more entrepreneurs or more people like doing that instead of saying I want to solve a very specific problem? I just want to build something.
Yeah, it's probably more that. I think the people who want to do one very specific thing will probably get too bent up on that one thing. Like if you talk to any entrepreneur, it's full of pivots. And so if you're like, hey, I want to do one thing, you're not going to objectively see what's coming back to you from the world, which is crucial. That's the most crucial part is like, I have a hypothesis. Let me go out to the world. Okay, I've got information. Now let me take this information. Let me digest it. It'll inform the hypothesis, and you might come up with a slightly different hypothesis, and you go back to the world, and it's this iterative evolutionary process. So even if you went out to do something specific, it would morph. And I think if you tried to hold on to it too tightly, then you'd have perhaps a small thing or nothing at all. Maybe you'd smother it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. So, let's switch gears here and talk a little bit about like clients, right? Let's talk a little bit about, your ideal client, the clients that you like to work with, and the value that you bring. So, talk a little bit about. You don't have to mention names if if you don't want to, but if you want to, that's great. But let's talk a little bit about your clients and those individuals that you serve.
Sure. So before, when we started, we were like, cool, we'll solve the sizing problem for everyone in footwear. And so we worked with everyone. And so we got fashion brands. We got large fashion brands like Lacoste. We got large performance brands. We got small barefoot brands like Birchberry. And so we kind of just said yes to everyone, and we thought we would add value to everyone. And we do. It's just the value sort of differs and the need differs because of the customer, the end user coming in cares a different amount. Like if you're buying a fashion shoe, you want it to fit, but it's not your primary concern. You mostly want it to look good. If you're running a marathon, that shoe better fit, because
100%.
then you're in actual pain. And so right now our focus is particularly on performance and functional companies like hiking companies, outdoor companies, running companies, even snowboard companies, where we can add value on the sizing, but also we can help guide the customer to get the right technical product. And we can do that, through a conversational AI where they can just talk, be like, hey, I'm going for this hike. And they're like, cool, how long is the hike, or what are the conditions like? We can also, through algorithms we've developed, understand whether they have pronation or supination, and if they're forefoot striking or heel striking, and then along with the brand, recommend products which are unique to this person. And so you're getting this truly personalized experience, and it gets your size, and then the value you're adding to the performance retailers. It's just crazy. Like, you're almost taking charge of that whole buying process and making it super frictionless. Like, someone comes on, you just funnel them into this because they can tell you exactly what they want. It can help them guide the right product, get the right size, add to cart. You're good to go. So yeah, that's what we're focusing on. That's our focus for the next sort of 6 months. And then once we start nailing that functional space, then there is focus and into fashion as well. And that's more of a style assistant where you're like, oh, cool, I can choose. Give me some jeans with go with it. And then it can understand that and come back to you with options. And there is companies like Mango in Europe doing that, and large companies will try to develop this internally. But there will be a lot of companies which either don't have the capacity to do it internally, but we want to appear big and want to have this, like, they want to have the cool latest technology and be able to compete with the big guys. So we give them this.
Yeah, I love it because there's also when you and I have spoken several times, and I think one of the areas that you often talk about without even talking about is storytelling, right? When it comes to whether it's StrutFit and who you work with, and also that consumer brand or the consumer experience, when you are working with a brand, how important is that? That part of the engagement, the process, the connection with that brand, that storytelling aspect, because I think a lot of times we just get so focused on the end product, and we're not really helping, companies craft that story. Because for me, I think that story is very important. What are your thoughts on that?
To clarify the question, is it the story we are telling to the company about our product, or is it the story we're crafting together through the product for the end consumer?
The latter. The latter.
Oh, I mean, both are crucial. The latter is crucial, like even more crucial, because it's all about, and in fact, we're stepping away. At the start, we had the StrutFit branding, and that was like, you're on the Hoka website, you click on StrutFit, you scan, you can save a StrutFit account. And the idea behind that was you could go to different retailers and you wouldn't have to scan your foot again. And we were thinking about the customer. We're stepping away from that, and we're actually making it a completely white labeled experience where for the customer, whether you engage with the shoe finder or whether you engage with the sizing assistant or whether you engage with like the FAQ bot, it's all branded like the same brand, and you're telling a consistent story. It talks like you. It's got the same font. It's got your assets. So that's super important. And then like these brands want, like some of the brands we're talking to, they're like, hey, we want to become a more premium brand and we want to have these more premium experiences. And shopping at the end of the day is an experience. Do people need all the stuff they're buying? I don't know. I don't think we need that much stuff. So obviously we're doing it for more than just the functional part of it. We're doing it because it's an experience that makes us feel a certain way. And we recognize that that's part of what the customer wants, is this experience. And like, life, you go to a movie, you're buying an experience. And so all of these things are experiences. So of course you want to very carefully craft this experience. And we're recognizing that, like, we knew that in that beginning, and now it's just even more important. And that's why we're stepping away from our branding and just letting the brand sort of white label the solution at all touch points.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so speaking about less, speaking about not needing everything that we purchase, I love our conversations, and I love the fact that you just came back. Not just came back. I don't know. It's been, by the time this goes out, it's going to be several months. But you mentioned, of course, that you were born in the Himalayas, and you went on a silent retreat. Listen, man, I'm from New York. I can't stop talking for like 5 minutes. So, talk. The one thing I've always found interesting with you in our conversations, all right, you are very, very smart when it comes to business, right? And your business, your acumen is ridiculous. But then there's this side of you of like, that's almost sort of disconnected from the business, in the context of like, you still need to be Ang, right? You're still sort of searching for like who you are and your purpose. And I love those conversations with you because I get so much out of it. You give me quotes, you give me books, you give me ideas, you give me perspectives. And I just love that. So could you talk a little bit about, that silent retreat that you actually experienced?
And the silent meditation is called a Vipassana. It's a 10-day silent meditation, and it's called Vipassana. And we did it in the Himalayas, but you can do it all over the world. They have centers all over the world, probably hundreds in America. And you go in, you observe noble silence for 10 days, where you can't speak to anyone, you can't look at people in the eyes. You wake up at 4 a.m. every day, they ring a bell, a gong, and you wake up, you get to the Dhamma hall at 4:30, and then you meditate. Actually, I haven't reflected on this in a while. And then you meditate for 11 hours in that day, and you repeat it for 10 days. And each day you're given a different instruction to focus on, and you slowly progress towards sort of narrowing and focusing your awareness to its a fine needle point. And then you're able to, and that's at the tip of your nose, and then you're able to move it around your body and sense where you are in space. And then you move it symmetrically around the body and understand where you are in space. And the sensations you can notice as you're building, it's like cartology of the body, as you're building this map of the body, are smaller and smaller. And Buddha was allegedly able to go down to the micro vibrations that are particles change. Particles are vibrating all the time, and there's just some specific number that he came up with, some million amount of times per second, and he was able to sense this. And these lower levels of movements sort of make up who we are, and we sort of operate at this really high level. But if you sit still and you just let the high level stuff quietened down, you can start to see what you're made of, which is a powerful and sort of transformative experience. And Buddha did it for 40 days under the Bodhi tree and found enlightenment. Whatever that means, probably means different things to different people, but certainly you can follow this method and other methods and reduce suffering. And suffering, the Buddhist term is like dukh, which is, it's like unnecessary suffering. Like when something bad happens, there's the initial reaction to it, and that's okay. Someone in the extreme version, someone dies, and that's sad, and you should feel sad because you love that person and you have memories and you expected to have more memories with that person. You thought you had more time and they're gone. And so you should feel sadness, and you should feel sadness for as long as it sort of comes up. But then if you hold on to it, then you end up increasing your suffering, and now it's not from the external world. Now it's from yourself. You're holding on to it. You're thinking about it. You're stuck in loops. And, we do this in all sorts of ways. And a lot of our suffering, was it Mark Twain? He's like, I've worried about a great many things, some of which have happened.
Yeah. Look, you listen to me. You're the first guest I've ever had quote Mark Twain. So that's awesome. So interesting. You said so many things there, but one thing that stuck out was, when Buddha did it, and he talks about he found out what he was made of, right? I almost feel like that's. I haven't gone through that before. I haven't gone through it. I could probably just do maybe one day, maybe 2 days. What did you find out about yourself what you were made of when as you reflect on it now, or maybe like immediately afterwards? I don't know what the time span it may have taken you to get to that point where you've realized something different about yourself, something new, something that you want to change, something that you want to adjust.
It's hard to disambiguate what I learned on that retreat versus what I had already sort of deciphered and learned. That retreat for me was not about thought. I did almost no thinking. I was just following their method. I developed some of my own methods as well, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to follow their method. But it was very much about sort of building this map of the body. And I had already the ability to move my consciousness around your body because, okay, so what is your consciousness? Is like there's electrical impulses. Mostly you're in your brain and you think you're in your eyes. And mostly this is where you are. But if you close your eyes, actually, we can do this on camera. I'll do it first.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it together. No,
yeah.
I need to be able. I'll do it first. Yeah. So if I close my eyes, I can put my consciousness in my fingertips, and I'll just like wiggle my fingertips around, and my eyes are closed, and somehow I'm able to make them meet. When my eyes are closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with no visual information, you're able to, and you give it a go.
Yeah.
Close your eyes.
Oh.
Almost. Yeah, there you go.
Almost. Yeah.
You knew where to adjust well.
Yes, so, I did. That's the part that's the part that I took out of it was the adjustment. Right? I was able to I had a goal in mind. I had a perspective of what I wanted to have happen, and it didn't really happen initially, but I was able to adjust it very quickly. Anyway, but I'm sorry, go ahead. Go. Were you going to say something?
No, that's precisely right. Like, and that's part of the Vipassana is like, you notice your shoulders symmetrically. And then what you notice is you're like, oh, one's more forward than the other. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm not balanced. Oh, there's some imbalance here. Oh, I'm holding on to this pain in my heart. Like, what is this? Oh, has this pain? Oh, why? First it's numb. And then you feel into it and you're like, oh, why am I holding? Like, what is this? And sometimes you're able to understand what that is and let go. But oftentimes, you start crying and you're like, oh, I don't know what I was holding there, but I know I was holding something, and you release it and your body keeps a score, and all of a sudden you feel lighter. You're like, oh, I didn't realize my chest opens like it. I just thought this is who I am. And so your being starts to change, and eventually the realization dawns upon you that all of this, the reason you can close your eyes and make your fingers touch is because all of this is happening in your own head. Like, yes, there's a physical reality here, which is real, But what your brain is doing, it's getting light rays into your eyeballs,
Yeah.
upside down, and then it's reconstructing them into this 3D space. So all of this which is occurring is your perception of it. And so truly, what you think you see, how you see the world, does actually shape how you see the world. And I've had some unique and hard to explain experiences about this. But I think that's an important realization when you realize, oh, I'm not different from this chair or this laptop because both of these things are in my head, which is an interesting way of being when you realize it.
Yeah. That's awesome. As you think about, you know, uh, your experiences, not just with the silent retreat, you do, of course, a lot of meditation, and I know we've had some conversations for me when I was felt like I was going through a period of burnout. We had a really great conversation that you helped me understand and really what that was, what I was going through. How does all of this impact you as a leader, right? You're running this big company, um, right? You got clients all over the world, right? Because I can hear people, you know, looking at this or listening to this, and they're like, "Well, it doesn't take all of that. It doesn't take all of that. I can manage my own stuff, and I'm still running this big company." I almost feel like they're missing something, um, to about themselves that will actually help them become a better leader, right? Would you agree with that? Or what are some of the things that you have, taken from your personal life and the things that you do from a spiritual standpoint into yourself as a leader and running a company?
Here is, off the top of my head, the most actionable piece of advice I can give to leaders, which doesn't require you to meditate. Um, and it's something like this ability to switch off autopilot. I mean, the Indians call it karma. I'm just going to call it autopilot, which is someone say something to you, it gives you a new piece of information. Hey, the sale didn't go really well, and immediately you respond. And the way you respond in that moment, if you're doing it automatically
Yeah.
with no pause, is going to be the way you've always done it.
Mm,
Um, and so if you're happy with where you are and how you're leading, and you're like, hey, life's going great, everything's exactly how I want it to be, then sweet, keep going on that path. If that's not the case, and you're like, hey, I would like something to change, then you need a way to pause. There's
mm,
like stimuli, and the more you can pause between the stimuli and your response, that's where you can change, and that's where you are just this pure awareness. And a really simple, actionable way to do this, and I came up with this, um, through your whole day, just go 30% slower.
mm.
Everything 30% slower. Brushing your teeth, go 30% slower. Speaking, 30% slower. And you will forget. But if you try it and you stick with it for the whole day, you'll get to the end of the day and you're like, well, I went 30% slower, but I didn't get 30% less done. I got the same amount done.
Yeah.
And I was there for it. The day didn't fly. The day didn't just blink and it was gone. I was there. Things happened. I got to experience it. And people think people think currency is money. And then you think about it a bit more and you're like, oh, actually the real currency is time. Warren Buffett talks about this. You can't get time back.
Mm-hmm.
Go a step further. The real currency is attention.
100%. I love that.
How much of your life are you there for? And how much of your attention can you give someone when they deliver, hey, the sale didn't go well? Instead of just autopilot, listen to them, understand what didn't go well, give them your attention, and then together you can sort of move forward. So that's a simple actionable. You don't have to go away and meditate. Just go 30% slower, but good luck.
Yeah, yeah. I love, you know, Gary Vee often talks about um, the attention economy. And while companies are always vying for your attention, right? Whether it's marketing or whatever you want to call it, it is your attention. And the more attention you give to something, the more you give away, right? You give away your time, you give away your presence, you give away your some sense of understanding because your attention has been drawn into something else. But I love in the context of what you're talking about as it relates to the attention that you give to other people, and this cause and effect that actually takes place. Because if you don't give attention to another individual, I call it margin. I call it margin. And every time I talk to leaders, I always talk about margin, the margin that they have in their life. Like, are you creating any margin? And that is like being able to take in information and ideas from other people. But then there's a reciprocity to that. Like, you also have to give things away. So we have this consumption, I think, consumer economy where people will just take, and take, and they just keep it and they hoard it and they don't give it away. And I almost feel sorry for those type of leaders because we have more of those leaders than we do the ones that actually give really good quality ideas and concepts and even parts of themselves away. We have to get back to that. There have to be a balance with that. And so I just love the fact that you said that attention is the new economy. So I think that's going to help a lot of leaders understand a little bit more about where they are and what they're giving away to other people as well.
There's so much joy in giving. Um, there's so much joy in creating. I think society has been set up for us, and I don't necessarily think there's some big organization doing it. It perhaps has been set up unconsciously, but they want us to consume. There was a time where music was not something you bought and listened to. It was singing around the campfire, and you didn't have to pay $100 and go to be able to sing songs. And if you're religious and we've been created in the image of our Lord,
Yeah.
who is a creator, then it's like, well, perhaps the most godly thing you can do is create, right? And so I think when people, and there's this great quote, I can't remember who said it, but he's like, you can create tonight. You can write a poem. You can draw a picture. You can do it tonight and nobody can stop you.
Yeah.
You can do it for yourself. You can write it down. You can look at it and you're like, oh, I made this. And no one can stop you. And then you just put it away and you go to bed and you just give that a go. Write a poem just for yourself. And no one needs to know. You don't need to tell anyone. And you made something and it didn't exist without you. And now here it is in the world just for you.
Oh, I often talk about it in the entrepreneurial space when I'm talking to people who are like creating a business, and they often get frustrated about where they are in their process of their journey, and I would say to them, listen to me, you're creating something that hasn't existed before. Right. I don't care if you may see a company that's doing something similar or you're in a similar vertical. I said, you're literally creating something that hasn't existed before. So give yourself some grace. Give yourself, the attention for lack of a better word, that you need to give yourself, that you're creating something like that hasn't existed before. And it always sort of blows their mind when I talk about it in that context. They're like, I never thought about it that way. Right. And I think when you do that, when you realize that you're creating something that really hasn't existed before, um, you there's a lot of things that you're learning about yourself in that process that you don't give yourself enough attention to understand. Like, oh wow, like whether it's marketing, whether it's trying to get a customer or whatever it may be, but even just like to get people to like engage with your brand, it's something brand new to you that you haven't done before. So anyway, that's my little diatribe on that whole thing.
If I could just add to that, because I've been there as a founder where you're critical of yourself and people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to anyone else. It's like, would you talk to your best friend? Um, and so, yeah, if we can just be, kinder to ourselves, I think you'd have a much nicer time of it as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting that we're very like, yeah, I say stuff to myself that I would never say to people. Like, if you didn't get a task accomplished, or you didn't meet a quote unquote expectation, of yourself, or like, even I'll give you an example, like even, those who are going to be looking at this recording, they don't know that we had a little blip, right? Earlier, right? And I was like, and in that moment, I was like, you know what? Let me give myself some grace. Let me just figure out the problem. We'll get back on and we'll finish the recording aspect of it. So we're very hard on ourselves. We have to give ourselves more grace. You mentioned a little bit. I'm gonna before we get into this like little lightning round thing. I do want to talk about the fact that you are in a band,
Mm.
right? That I think it was our second to last meeting. We were talking, and you was like, "Yeah, I'm in a band." I was like, "What? Where did this come from?" Like, I don't remember this. I don't remember this in our previous conversations. Um, so you're a CEO. You go and you do silent retreats, right? You're wise beyond your years, and now you're in a band. Walk me through the band situation.
I mean, the band thing was so random. Like my friend, actually on this guitar, oop,
Mm,
that my friend was teaching my other friends, and my friend Hans, who actually now makes guitars. And it'll be crazy looking back at this podcast in like 5, 10 years when it's like one of the biggest guitar companies in the world. But anyway, my friend Hans has made his first guitar last year, and now he's got this guitar company. But a couple years before that, he was just teaching my other friend Jordan, who's a very successful entrepreneur, how to play the guitar. And they'd had a couple sessions, and I rock up, and I was like, "Oh, we should start a band." Just
mm,
I think I said it as a joke. I don't quite recall. I said it as a joke. And then, on Saturday, they're like, "Cool, well, let's have a band practice." And so we get there, Hans starts playing, and he's like, "Cool, well, Ang, sing." Oh, brother, I don't even know what that means. Like, what do you mean just like, what do I say? How do I say it? What are notes? What's melody? I don't know. So I just sat there mute for 1 hour. I didn't say anything. He plays
wow.
lots of different things. He's just looking at me. He does this thing. He just looks at me, waiting for me to come in. And I just look back, and I'm like, look down, and I'm like, sit there for 1 hour of that. Come back a week later, and I'm like, I can't just sit there mute for an hour. So let me stuff. And I do a lot of, I have periods where I do a lot of journaling, and I'll write
Yeah.
my journal, kind of like poetry. And so I'm like, I'm fairly good at writing prose, so I rock up next time, and then I'm like, I have words, but I still don't know what singing is. And then the third, so it's just literally starts like that. And then he's like, all right, just get a dictionary out. He gives me a dictionary or like some random book. And he's like, just start singing words and whatever. And so that's how I started. And then as I got into it, I realized my face was kind of collapse, and my body was asymmetrical. And I figured that if the body is an instrument and you're singing, effectively all you're doing is creating a structure with your body and emitting sound for,
Hmm.
and you're singing. So if you have good posture and you know where everything is. So I set out on this journey, and I spent 2, 3 years fixing my posture with existing techniques and random stuff I did. And now yesterday, I had my first singing lesson because I was like, cool, now I'm 90% of the way. I've almost fixed this instrument. I know where things are. If she tells me to like relax my shoulders or relax this area, I can do that because I know where it is. Because the whole body went to sleep if you don't pay attention, and you gotta wake it back up. And so I had the first lesson, and she's like, "Oh, it's great. You've been doing this work for the last 2 years, and I think you've timed it well that you can come here now, and I can give you these techniques, and you can go away and practice." And so, um, yeah, it's such a fun, like, even if no one listens to our music, it's just such a fun create stuff. Like, sitting around the campfire with a guitar, and you can just do percussion on yourself, really,
Yeah. Yeah.
and singing. And that's just so many religions have converged upon singing as a mode of connection to something higher
Yeah.
and a form of release. Um, I mean, chills just think about it. Literally, every religion has this, and so you're like, okay, well, clearly there's something going on here. And so yeah, it's just such a fun thing. Why I'm doing it beyond that, I think music is probably the most effective way to spread a message through the world.
Mm.
Uh, Short of starting a religion, probably the most effective. Like, if you can come up with a good, catchy tune, And even before you add words, it's saying something. And then you add words, what usually happens with meaningful songs is people sort of sing along. And then over time, you're like, oh, wait, that's what the lyrics are saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what they meant.
Yeah. And so I think, I've struggled in life and I've learned some things. And I'm on this journey now to become ordinary. And I think part of the music is to, people shouldn't have to learn everything on their own. Like the part of the human experience is, let's learn from other people's struggles. And if I can tell my stories in a way where it resonates and you're like, oh, that's the same story. Oh, maybe I, maybe I do treat my parents the way I've been treating them for the last 15 years. Maybe I don't see them for who they are. Maybe I have this image of them. And that's why we get together as a family and everyone reverts to, 15 years ago when we were all living together and they start treating me this way and then I react. And so, I think sharing stories like that and getting people to sort of have realizations but also, in dance, that's a fun thing to do. So,
yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. You talked about the family thing. I remember, Father's Day in the States was just, in July, and I wrote about this story, where, we were visiting when my dad was still alive. We were visiting my dad, and, my three girls we were all in this one room, and my dad was in the other room, and he called, and he, yelled my name, like, everybody calls me Stevie, and his voice is deeper than mine. And he's just like, Stevie. And I literally like jumped because I hadn't heard him call me like that, like since I was a kid. Right. And I literally like jumped, and my girls like looked at me like, oh my God. I said, I think they, at that moment in time, they realized that their dad is someone's kid. They understood that I'm, he's my father, but they didn't realize, they were like, you are someone's kid, right? And so it was just an interesting situation, because they just looked at me like in awe of like, holy crap, like you actually have to answer to somebody as well. So just think about this, the family connections and just moments in life that sometimes we allow to pass by, and we don't necessarily give them the due respect, that they need. I love the fact that that you've picked up singing. I love the fact that I think you sort of hinted in there about you're writing a book, right? Was it called Becoming Ordinary, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I want to steal the title. You can steal it if you want.
No, yeah, no.
It'll take me another 8 years probably to write this book, and not because the book requires that level of effort, but it's the book is my journey to becoming ordinary. And I think ordinary to me means getting back to zero. And I think that's maybe a mild form of enlightenment, where you carry all this, like you're born and you don't get to make decisions really until you're 18 probably. And then by that time, the way in which you make decisions has been informed by the environment you grew up in so heavily. You didn't choose that environment, and you didn't choose your parents, you didn't choose your school. And so you have all this, you think you're this person, but I would say you're not this person. I would say you're carrying a lot of stuff you don't need to carry, and you're telling yourself stories which aren't true. And you carry it in your mind and you carry it in your body. And so my whole thing is, people are trying to go from 1 to 100. And I'm like, brother, you're at negative 50. You just need to get to zero. Get to zero. You need to, Bruce Lee, how can you fill your cup? It's already full. You have to empty the cup first.
Yes.
So get back to zero, become ordinary. And then once you're there, once up is up and left is left and right is right, because right now that's not the case. Right now you're like here, and you're like, you think you're putting your hand up, but really you're putting your hand like in that direction. And so it's like playing a game. Some games they flip the controls and left is right and right left, and it becomes really hard. It's kind of like that. Like you think you're doing something, but that's not quite what you're doing. But if you can get back to zero, then you can do whatever you want, and everything becomes a lot easier. And it's probably a closer representation of like you versus what society wants versus this like escalator they put you on. Go to school, go to university, get a job, get married, have kids. Are you happy yet? I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
it's the book is about becoming ordinary, but no one's gonna read it if I haven't done anything. So, and so my goal is to become ordinary, become a successful entrepreneur, become a successful musician. The band's name is Ordinary Men,
Mm.
and then now it's like cool. There's like Kanye West Coast. I don't take advice from people less successful than me. So I'll become successful, and then I'm like, cool. Well, here's how I got here, and you can do it too. And I'm not special. In fact, I'm ordinary, and you can be too.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. It's interesting because I think society will fight tooth and nail to tell you that you're not ordinary, right?
Mhm.
And so society will just they'll keep filling you with things to fill your cup, right? And then by you filling your cup, you just continue to say to yourself, "Well, I'm not ordinary. I have this car, I have this house, I have this zip code, I have this number of kids, I have I'm in a Rotary Club, I'm this and that." And but when you strip all of that away, it almost feels like you're the emperor, with new clothes or doesn't have any clothes. It's like, well, who am I without all of these things? So let me ask you that question. When you get yourself down to zero, like who are you at zero? Right? I mean, that's probably a personal question that people are going to need to answer. Right? Maybe,
Mhm.
and that's probably a rhetorical question for yourself, but it's one that just came to mind. It's like, when I get to zero, like, who am I?
The who am I is such a loaded question
Yeah,
because each of the words, if you look at the words closely,
who am I?
imply that there's a you. There's like a who,
Yeah,
which implies there's a someone, and then there's a am, which implies sort of being, and then the I is also loaded because it has sort of this I
yeah,
loaded in it. And I mean, the mystics will say there is no I. There's only the experience, and there's not the experiencer. Um,
mm,
I don't think I have a good an answer for this.
no
Really,
worries.
I'm gonna delay this. Give me 10 more years. I haven't
Yeah,
gone back to so
wait for the
I
book.
can have a. I don't know what it'll be like. I have thought about this. I'm like, what do I do when I get to zero?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think I get to sing and dance. And
yeah, yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
We'll see.
Have you all right, I'm gonna keep asking this question because because maybe this is I'm asking myself this. Um, have I ever or have you ever been at zero before, right? I almost feel like I would know when I was at zero, and then I probably started adding more things on, adding more layers on, and maybe it was just for a moment or a season of my life, right? And where I felt extremely light, I felt extremely uh, free, and there wasn't a massive care and concern about achieving or about moving forward. It was just I was okay with where I am, um,
Mm.
and I wasn't pursuing anything. I wasn't going after anything, and I wasn't allowing the things of the world to influence me. And I feel like I have been there before, but it wasn't. I didn't stay there long because I think part of it I was probably scared. I think I was probably nervous of that feeling of not pursuing, of not going after, and not listening and just being still, right? And
Mm.
I think that fear caused me to move out of that space. So anyway, that was just my own. I
That
just started
that
thinking about that.
It's it certainly sounds like you've been there, because when you get there and you're like, "Oh, I have nowhere to be, I have nothing to do." You have infinity and you have nothing in front of you. It's a lot. It's a lot. So you don't stay there long. And often you can't stay there long because the forces will pull you out of it. And those forces might be, stuff you stored in your head, stuff you stored in your body.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I too have had glimpses of zero. But you wake up with amnesia. And so you have to remind yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's why I have these rituals. Like, you go to bed and you're like, oh yeah, I have all these plans. You wake up in the morning, you forget about it. And you have to remind yourself of who you are and the direction you're going in. So, if you're there one day, if you're lucky to be there the entire day, the next day might be different.
I know. You're like, and then you wake up, you're like, was I really there? Did that really happen? And yeah, you start to move out of it. Hey, I'm gonna get you out on these quick questions that I wanted to ask you, and I'm gonna let you get back to your day. These are just some quick hits. Like, just give me the first thing that sort of comes to your mind when I ask you this.
Do I have a one-word answer?
Oh no, you got no, not one word. You got a phrase. You can use a phrase. Yeah, just whatever comes to your mind. Biggest lie founders tell themselves.
Maybe I have to go quickly. Maybe that's the biggest lie.
Mm.
I feel like people are in a rush. And slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's a good answer.
Ooh, I like that. Or 30%, 30% slower. 30% slower. I don't know. I've taken so many things out of today, but that 30% slower is like it's right at the front of my brain right now for today.
I'm keen to see your experience with it.
Yeah. Next question. Hardest truth you've learned this year.
This year it hasn't had many hard truths.
Mm.
Perhaps, this is in relation to perhaps finding hardest. I saw this on the email as well, and I'm like, I don't know if I have any hard truths.
Mm.
Can I skip this one? I don't have any hard truths.
No, that's fine. All right. Well, this should be a good one for you, right? So, what's a practice you wish more leaders would adopt? That's a softball.
Yeah, that is a softball, and I've said the slow thing. I think another very practical thing that I do and probably should do more of is like you just write down, because like there's so much stuff to do all the time, and how do you define success? Like you always go to bed and you're like, I didn't do enough today. Like I should have done more. I know I could have done more. I've had days where I've done so much. Why can't I do that all the time? And I think you need to set up a criteria for success. What would make a successful day? So at the start of the day, you just write down 3 things that you want to do. And you're like, if I do these 3 things, today is a successful day. And there might be 3 big tasks. There might be 3 little tasks. You choose. It doesn't matter. But what you're giving yourself is permission to know that you had a good day. Because maybe this is my hard truth. I was trying to get great days. And then when I wouldn't have a great day, like a 9 out of 10 day, a 10 out of 10 day output, every day I wanted a great day. And when I wouldn't get it, I would beat myself up. I'm like, I know why am I procrastinating? I know I'm capable of more. If only I work harder. And then I realized, and I think Einstein talks about compounding effects and how it's like such a crazy phenomenon. And it's like, bro, you don't need great days. All you need is you just need good days. You just stack good days.
Yeah.
What's a 7 out of 10 day?
Yeah.
Can I do a 7 out of 10 day today? Can I do it tomorrow? If you get 1% better every day, by the end of the day, by the end of the year, you are 3,300% better. You're 33 times better than you were if you just get 1% better every day. So just stack good days. A way to do that is just write down what would make today a good day. And then you can sleep at night, knowing you've done enough.
Yeah, that's so good because I think, I don't know if I could define what a good day is, right? You know what I mean? Maybe until afterwards, right? Until like I almost feel like I'm going to probably define it myself right now. Here it is. Like when I think about what I intended my day to be, and at the end of the day, there's something that was surprising or happened that I didn't intend to happen. that day. You write down your list and do all these other things. And then there's something that takes place. And you're like, oh man, like that was such a good experience, right? That I didn't anticipate that. And so for me, sometimes when I think about a good day, it's like, it's probably, you know, something that happens that's outside of my guardrails that I didn't anticipate, that I said, oh, wow. You know what I mean? Having a conversation with you or having a conversation with another founder or something like that. And they say something that's like, oh, wow. So like I already know today's going to be a good day because now I'm going to be thinking about this 30%, slower. I'm going to be thinking about unbecoming, or becoming ordinary and getting to zero. I don't know what that's going to mean. I think what I'm going to do with that, when I feel like I'm at that zero, I got to write it down too. I don't think I wrote that down. I wasn't journaling back then when I probably hit that moment of zero. I wasn't writing. I wasn't anything. I think I was just experiencing it too. And I think I need to, if possible, to be able to write that down when you get to zero. So anyway, you're always giving me something to do, man. Always giving me something to think. Every time we have a conversation.
I'm glad.
Well, this is long overdue. I'm glad we finally got the opportunity to talk about your business, your leadership, who you are, and what you're doing, and more importantly, like the things that you're going to be doing with not just StrutFit, but with your book and everything. So I appreciate the conversation that we initially had when we first met, and I always appreciate our conversations. Ang, thanks so much for being here, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure meeting you and seeing your journey, and I'm looking forward to your book and seeing you develop as well. It's just great. I think we paint such interesting tapestries with our journeys, and it's nice when you get to meet someone early on and you get to see that trajectory. So I look forward to that for both of us.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here, dude.